Hi foodies, I love white rice with curry, but let me tell you, paratha, aka bus up shot, I love this roti so much. It's not too hard to make, it takes a little while, a little love, but you can do it. All right, so in the bowl, I have flour, sugar, salt, and baking powder. I'm just whisking that together. Then I'll add lukewarm water. So for this step, you want to make sure you add it gradually and just keep stirring and then knead everything together. If the dough is not perfectly smooth, don't worry. I've made this many times and it has never been perfectly smooth. Just get it together into a ball and then you're going to rub olive oil all over the dough. Cover it with a damp kitchen towel or plastic wrap and let it rest for an hour. I prefer an hour. The longer it rests, it relaxes and gets smooth and soft. Okay? Once the dough has been rested for an hour ideally, then you're just going to cut it into 3 or 4 pieces. If you have a huge tower to make it, then you can do bigger dough balls, all right? And then you're just going to flatten each ball and go ahead and roll them flat. Roll them as flat as you can, as thin as you can, because this type of roti, you don't want it to be thick. You want it to be very thin, very flexible, very stretchy. And then once you get it super flat and thin, then you're going to use a knife or your finger, whatever you want, and then cut down from the center. Then you're going to brush on some softened butter or ghee, or if you want to mix some oil, like some coconut oil with the butter, that's fine too. And then sprinkle on some flour, but not too much. This is going to help to get those flakes in the roti. Then you are going to be making a cone. And how you get this cone is by folding, right? So you can see I'm just folding all the way around. I'm doing it anti-clockwise, but you could do it clockwise, all right? So you're going to end up with a cone and make sure that pointy end remains pointy, right? Seal off the edge, make sure of that because you don't want that butter to come out once you're rolling it later. Then tuck in the bottom of this cone. Make sure it's tucked in neatly. All right, you want to keep the filling in, right? And then the top of the cone, you're going to press it down. When you push it down, just be careful so this whole thing doesn't open up. All right, so push it in and down. Then you're going to rest this again. So this cone that we have tucked into itself, you're going to cover it and rest it for an hour. You can do less time if your dough is really soft and stuff, but I prefer to rest it to let that dough relax. Once all those cones have rested, they've relaxed, they're nice and soft, use your hand just to flatten them. So make a flat circle and then go in with your rolling pin and you're going to flatten it really thin. Make it as big as you can. All right, because you want this roti to be very light, very thin. Okay. Make sure your cast iron skillet or your tawa is lightly greased with butter or ghee or coconut oil or vegetable oil. Then you're going to lay the roti on there. And it is a little more challenging to use a skillet versus the tawa. The tawa is excellent for this. This has the raised edges, so it's harder for me to, do a big roti and to spread it out. But as soon as you put it on there, brush with some ghee or a mixture of oil and butter. You're going to see it slightly bubble a little bit, but flip it and then brush it again. All right, so first step, you put it in there, brush it with whatever fat you're using. Then, once it gets brushed completely, you flip it, brush it again like I am doing right now. And remember to brush those edges. All right, because you want this roti to be soft and you want that butter to give it that nice flavor. Okay, so we've greased both sides. And now it's time to let that roti cook some more. So you want to cook it for about 20 to 30 seconds on each side. Make sure that it is not high heat or low heat. because you don't want this to burn. You don't want it to be crunchy. All right. So you can brush on whatever grease you want, but now it's time to cook it for about 20 to 30 seconds on each side. Once you've done that, cook on each side, then you're going to be bringing that roti together. So push those edges together towards the center. I don't have any dabblers at home, so I'm using my wooden spoon. I always just use the handle of my wooden spatulas or my wooden spoons. And the reason you're turning it is because you want it to cook evenly, but you don't want it to burn, right? So if it sits too long, it might get too crunchy, right? So you want to move it around, get it flexible, get it to puff up, get those layers and those flakes developed. All right. So hit it as hard as you can. Don't worry about it. It's bust up shut. So it doesn't matter if it gets a little bit ripped. Okay. So go ahead and just keep bringing it into that center, turning it, and then I put on some butter. You don't have to put on additional butter. Then it's time to clap the roti. So at this point, you're just tossing the roti and clapping it. And this clapping motion just helps to separate all of those layers. It's called bus up shut. So it's supposed to be looking ripped. Okay. It's not supposed to be that neat folded roti. And look at those stretchy, thin layers. This is what you want for your bus up shut roti. All right. Rip it apart. Don't be afraid. And this is another one that I did afterwards. Make sure that you keep these covered. All right. You don't want them to dry out. So wrap them tightly in cloth all together and they'll soften. They'll be nice and flaky. You just want to keep them together so they don't dry out from that being exposed to the air, right? But that's what it's supposed to look like. You see how thin? Very, very nice. I like to have this with coconut curry chickpeas, and this is on my channel. It's really delicious, really creamy and satisfying. But you could have it with some curry chicken if you want to. It can be frozen, so you can wrap it in some parchment paper and foil and freeze it. Reheat it when you're ready. But this is just so delicious. I always drizzle some melted butter on it and like right before I eat it. But it's so good with this chickpeas. Let me know if you are willing to try this roti. And if this is something you do on the regular, give me some tips because I'm not a roti expert, but I am a belly expert. I love my belly. So let me know. Let me know if you have any tips for me. But I'm always pleased when I make this and I'm trying to find a tower. I'm hunting for that. Let me know if you have any suppliers you want to let me know about. I really need a tower. Thanks for watching. See you next time.